Hi everyone, this is the fourth in my series of interviews with well-known DJs. And this is the second time I've interviewed a Dutch DJ, but DJ Sies actually lives in Belgium. And as you may have seen from my social media, Sies and I have started to collaborate on various projects under the name Snack, which is our initials. So that's original. I think ABBA did that, didn't they? They were the first to do it. And our first project is called COVID-19, and we'll explain about that a bit later on. And it's already receiving radio play. So hi, Sies, how are you?
Hi, Alan, I'm fine. Thank you, thank you.
Good. So how has lockdown been for you? I mean, in the UK, we're on our third lockdown. So what's the position been like in Belgium?
In Belgium, it's now a little bit okay, but we got one long lockdown. And you cannot go anywhere. I mean, no restaurants are open, no bars are open. If you want to go to shopping with your wife or with your companion, you cannot do that. You have to go alone in the shop. So
yeah,
it's a little bit difficult. So, but we have to do it.
I mean, in the UK, not all shops are open. Is that the case in Belgium?
Not anymore. Now it's all. I think all is open now.
Oh, okay. That's not too bad then. So I don't think you're badly off in the same way that we are. I know you work in Holland quite a lot, or you go to Holland quite a lot. So what about Holland? Do you happen to know, is it worse there or better?
My family lives in Holland, so I heard a few things of them. But it's same there, the lockdown, and I think it's the same as now in Belgium, in Holland. The shops are closed, a few shops are open, or the restaurants also are closed, the bars are closed, so it's the same.
It's a hard time, isn't it?
Yeah.
Okay, so let's go back in time a bit. Can you tell us how and when you got into DJing?
When? That's a very long time ago.
Yeah? It's longer for me, I think. But you tell us.
I think it was 85, 86, something like that.
Yeah.
And it was in a disco and dancing. And I was there light DJ. So I play with the lights. And so from one thing to another, I try to mix this there. I get 50 minutes and one night from the DJ to make few mixes live. Wait, the cat is walking here.
No, we need a cat in. We need a cat. Every interview has got a cat that I can see. Anyway, okay, so that's DJ.
Okay.
Yeah, lighting DJ. And when did you get a chance to be a DJ actually mixing music?
I heard mixes on the radio, on records. So I tried at home, and after that, the DJ of the dancing, he gave me 15 minutes, so I can mix live 3 or 4 songs. And so I start mixing.
Right.
And then it go further to that I was, that I was the DJ for whole night mixing.
Right, you got a whole night to yourself.
Yeah.
So in 85, presumably, because records were then a bit more consistent tempo, because the sort of remixes you're doing now, which we'll talk about in a minute, some of them are live musicians, aren't they? But so you were mixing in 85, 86 with music that was quite consistent, the tempo, wasn't it? So
yeah,
it wasn't as some of the guys I've been talking to, which started in 1977, where you had some songs that were quite out of time. So let's move on to remixing. So when did you start doing remixes, and why, I suppose? Was it something that you always wanted to do?
I make remixes also for a very long time, but I make that few in a year. Till 3 years ago, I was on holiday in Italy, lying down in the sun, in the pool, I thought, hey, I have to do something more. I have to do something more. So I was thinking, I said, hey, maybe I can make every week a remix for a few radio stations. So I called them and they all say yes. So
great. I did that as well, actually, because I sent two mixes to Tony Prince, and I had to have a slot on Radio Luxembourg. But I think that's about the only time I've done that. Radio is a good way of getting into doing mixing, I think. So what equipment were you using then to do your remixes? Presumably not the same equipment that you have now.
Back then I had an Atari PC. No, before Atari, I had a Roland sequencer, 2-track sequencer. Then you can, if you record the 2-track, you merge to 1 track, then you have 1 track free, and so on and on. And after that, the Atari computer came along with Cubase, and so further.
So was that the Atari in the 80s? Was that the Atari that was used to sequence?
Yes.
Yeah. And then you moved on.
Only MIDI.
Only MIDI, yeah. And then you moved on to, using the Atari and Cubase. It wasn't the Atari then. You used Cubase, though, on a proper.
No, Cubase was on the Atari. Yeah? It was.
Okay.
It was not called Cubase. It was called Pro 24. But it was.
I remember that. Yeah.
It was from Steinberg.
Yeah. When did you start doing mixes where all the sounds were actually in the computer? Can you remember? Was that 15. What computer have you got now? Is it an Apple computer?
No, I got the normal PC computer.
Okay.
But I got a friend who put everything in it for me what I want, and so it's a heavy PC.
So just give us some idea of the remixes that you've done. Just not all of them. Just give us an idea of the remixes you've done, and explain if some of them have been commercially released to the general public.
There were a few releases on DMC, a few, but I made a remix of Sugar Hill Gang, Rapper's Delight, let me see, Womack and Womack, Love Wars, Sade, Smooth Operator is a nice one, Shalimar, there it is, Stacey Lattisaw, Jump to the Beat.
Didn't you Make That Move as well for Shalimar? Because I think you might have sent me that. Make That Move?
Yes, I think so, yes, I make that too.
Yeah. And of course you did Ring My Bell, the Anita Ward.
Yes, and Montana Sextet, Who Needs Enemies?
Yeah.
A great tune.
Geraldine.
Yes.
Geraldine, yeah. Anyway, quite a few.
Few Gary's Gang, Earth, Wind and Fire. Cool. A lot of.
Didn't you do a Whitney Houston one? Which one was that? Can you remember? I can't remember.
Yes. How the song's called? Oh, I'm sorry.
Don't worry.
I have to look which one.
Don't worry, I know lots of people. I can't remember which mixes I've done 20 years ago, so don't worry about that. But you have done a Whitney Houston one, which is always a great thing to start with, I think. I did one, Whitney Houston one, to start her career, basically, or at the start of her career. It wasn't a hit, so I'm responsible for the only remix that wasn't actually a hit for Whitney, but never mind. So what do you think then makes a good remix? Well, if you're listening to other people doing remixes and your own remixes, what do you think is important?
What I like about the remix is that you keep the original in it. Just not change too much. Not making a ballad, a slow song, 140 BPM, house of how you call it track. But keep for me then, keep the original also there.
Yeah. I think some people change it too much, don't they?
Yes.
Yeah, it's always tempting. Certainly, it used to be the case where it's just the a cappella and they'll do another track behind it. Sometimes that works, but not always.
No.
I think sometimes it's good to keep the flavor of the original. Yeah, I think there's a danger sometimes that you think to earn your money, if you're getting paid for it, that you've got to do a completely new track. So let's just go back to DMC then. Can you remember when you started doing mixes for them? Is it quite recently, or is it 20 years ago?
No. Recently, I think 2 years ago. 2 years ago, some friends asked me, why don't you send something to DMC? I said, nah, DMC is not my thing, and they don't want me, they don't know me, so maybe they don't like my remixes.
Well, it's always worth trying, isn't it?
Yes, so I did. It takes me a few months to get contact with them. So, and they like it. So now it's almost every month is a remix of mine on the CD.
Good. And, well, you're very good, aren't you? So I'm not surprised at that. So can you tell us a bit more about your radio career? Because you've mentioned that you did mixes for radio, but just be a bit more, give us a bit more detail about when did you start doing radio mixes? I think you've already sort of gone into some detail on that. And which radio stations have you actually provided mixes for over the years?
Or let me say we, this Ron, a friend of mine, and we started 20 years ago, something like that, on a local radio station in Eindhoven, Holland. I live nearby Eindhoven. And they all like it, and people were listening, and from one led to another. And in 2 years, I think we had 35 radio stations all over the world who was playing the Rosie mixes.
Wow.
Again, the name Ron Sies.
So a combination, like we are.
Yes,
you know?
Yes.
when was that then? Was that in which decade was that? Was it the 90s or the 80s?
No, it was 90s, late 90s.
Okay. So since then, in the 2000s, you've done mixes for other radio stations. Is that right?
Yes. A lot of radio stations, and from there it doesn't stop. So it goes, and I still get a request from radio station. Can I play your song, or can you make a mix or something like that? And yes, they can.
Nobody's ever asked me again. This my Radio Luxembourg one.
Maybe in the future, Alan. Maybe in the future.
Maybe in the future. I got invited once, and then DMC started, and I've done remixes, but nobody's ever asked me to do a radio mix again. Okay, so let's go. You're going to give us a tour of your studio, but a little bit later. But just give us an idea of how your studio's developed over the years. I know you mentioned your equipment was relatively basic at the start, and obviously as you do more mixes, you could afford to buy more equipment. So just remind us what you were starting off with. You then moved on to the computer, the Atari, didn't you? So perhaps from then on.
Then from there, when I start working with the PC, with the computer, I want to try to do like what they say in the box.
Yeah.
But back then they don't have nice software, nice synthesizers or drum computers back then. But now they have it. So, but when I started with the PC, I stopped buying equipment's hardware because it takes too much space, and my wife is killing me. You buy too much. But I still have all my equipments.
Yeah, well, we'll see that later when we look at your equipment, because it's nice to have a few outboard items. I think looks more impressive as well if you've got an outboard. Some outboard gear rather than just relying on the computer, although you can just rely on the computer now. Good. So, and what software do you use? Is it Cubase or Logic?
The program?
Yeah, or Ableton or?
I use Ableton, and I still use also Cubase, but
yeah,
I still slowly go into Ableton.
Yeah. So that's what you tend to use now for your remixes. Is that
For the
right?
remixes is for me then is Ableton good.
So you'll give us a tour of your studio now. Can you explain how we got into contact and how we started working together?
How we got in contact? I saw your name on Facebook.
Yeah.
Yes, I said, hey, I know the name.
And then you sent me a message, didn't you?
Yes, I sent you friendship.
Yeah, and then
and after that, I sent you a message because you share a song.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then you just sent me a message, because sometimes it happens to me. I sort of get a message and it leads to something.
Mm-hmm.
You know, it's amazing social media, isn't it? How you can just suddenly get into contact with people, and you can actually have some quite famous people. Because I must admit, I'm not going to name names, but sometimes I put a mix up and then I check to see, you know, whether I can tag the person. And I realised that they're already a friend of mine. It's quite embarrassing, actually. I'm not going to give you names, but anyway, so we started working together, and we realised that we had a sort of interest in disco type of music, or late 70s, 80s.
Yeah.
So why are you particularly interested in that? Because it's actually before you started DJing, isn't it? The 70s and 80s.
Yes.
Late 70s.
I'm the youngest one. I'm the youngest one at home of eight children. My parents had 8 children. I'm the youngest one.
Right. 8.
So 8. 4 guys, 4 girls, and they all like music. They're all playing music. When we are together, they play music, and back then also the old disco from 70s they play. So I know almost all of them, and I became a DJ in the 80s, so the songs of the 80s I also know, and it's my area, 80s.
Were you able to play in 1985, for example, songs from 79, 80? Because I know when I started in 1981 DJing at Le Beetroot, I was still playing things from 79 because I just wanted to, really, because they were my bag. But could you get away with it in 1985 playing?
Yeah.
Songs? Yeah.
I don't know which one, but yes.
Yeah, because as I say, some of them were quite difficult to mix. If they were 1979 and it wasn't Giorgio Moroder, you were stuck with a live drummer. Did you ever have that experience where?
Yes, and then cursing.
Yeah, I worked at a club at the same time as the Beetroots, a different club, and the turntables were literally, they sort of you had to sort of press with your finger the turntables to get to make them actually move quicker.
Yes.
Have you ever worked with those?
Yes. I started with the at the disco. They had the heavy turntables. The brand was Spotmaster, I think. The radio turntables, no pitch, only 45 and 33.
Oh, really?
So if you want to slow it down on the sides of the wheel, you push your finger, as you were saying, to slow it down, and it's going to be on your fingers, eh? It went hot on your fingers.
I knew somebody, because basically somebody that inspired me to mix. Well, a few people that inspired me, a chap called David Bumford, and he was mixing before me, and he used to use his finger to sort of slow down the record, which, and I don't think I had to do that in the club I'm talking about. But it's quite frustrating. But certainly the Beetroot, it had variable speed turntables. But of course now, when they mix on computer, it's all done for them, and they've got pitch and also keys. I think you've got software you can check keys. I think sometimes you can have too much technology, because we did it all via ear in the 80s and 70s, late 70s, for those who were mixing then. I started in 1980, I think, which was my year. Anyway, let's talk about COVID-19 then, our first project. So can you just say a little bit about that? I mean, you explain.
When we met on Facebook, you share a song of Paul Hardcastle, 19.
Yeah.
And I made a remix of 19, I think 2 years ago. And I sent it to you.
Yeah.
And you like it, and so on. And came the idea of use the backing track of my remix with the vocals of Frankie. Can I say it? Yes, I can say it. With Frankie and some samples of the COVID news.
Yeah, because actually I can carry on a little bit, because obviously I watch the TV here a lot, and I'm quite interested in politics. So it just occurred to me that if we just sampled Matt Hancock, who's a very well-known politician in the UK, obviously not in Belgium, just saying COVID, and then 19, of course, is the Paul Hardcastle song. But we haven't really used much of Paul Hardcastle's vocal. It's not him actually anyway, but it's literally just the 19, isn't it?
Only 19.
Yeah. So it's more really of the Frankie Goes to Hollywood vocal at the moment, and Matt Hancock. So it's a bit of a mashup of those two, but there is a bit of Paul Hardcastle in there. So the video is very good as well. Who helped you with the video? Or did the video?
The video is made by a friend of mine, Wim Budding. It's called also mastermixers.nl, and he makes great videos.
Yeah, really good.
Because he's also a mixer, so he knows what we feel when we make a remix, and he knows how to put it in the video.
Yeah.
And he makes a lot of videos for me.
Yeah.
He's great at it.
Yeah, I was very impressed actually, because certainly the stuttery effects with the vocals, I wasn't expecting that. I was really impressed actually with him. So how's it doing? Didn't you tell me that it's actually been played on the radio?
Yes, it has been played yesterday, Sunday. Can I say that? Okay. 3 radio stations tonight. Now I think now. It's 7:30. It's playing now on a radio station in Amsterdam.
Wow.
Now at this moment. So
wow.
In the weekend also, I think 2 or 3 stations who's going to play. So
yeah. Do these stations have apps so I could listen?
Yes.
Oh, you can send me the details afterwards, because I'd like to hear it, obviously. Let's go back to your live DJing then. So you started off really as a live DJ after being a lighting DJ. But are you still DJing now at all?
Now it's Not anymore like,
Yeah,
like I did, but now also now with the COVID thing.
Yeah. I sort of meant just before lockdown, really. So would you regard yourself still as a live DJ at all? Just
not
so much.
Not so much. I play at the 80s parties with 80s music. So I told you my area is 80s. So
yeah,
when I go DJing, I play 80s music.
Mm. Yeah, I think Ben may do that. Ben Liebrand. Actually, let's move on to your inspirations to become a DJ and a remixer. So, have you got any
as a mixer?
Yeah.
You already mentioned his name.
Yeah,
Ben.
That was a good link, wasn't it? so yeah, you watched Ben in the 85.
No, I heard him his mixes on the radio.
Yeah.
It's called back then was on Radio Veronica.
Yeah, Grand Mix.
No. He had the weekly show for 1 hour in the night, 2 o'clock in the night. It was 2 o'clock, yes.
Yeah.
And he plays the news music, the news import, everything, and he's mixing smooth. How he do that? How he do that? So, and then I heard his remixes, and then you start yourself doing and trying, and then you got something. But it was not good. The first few remixes was not good, but it was for me back then was okay. Hey, I can do it.
Well, it takes a while to become, sort of to become that proficient so that you can get remixes released to the general public. It's not something that can happen overnight.
No.
Let's move on then to. Oh, actually, let me just ask you about, because Peter Slaghuis was the most. Another famous DJ.
Yes.
Sadly deceased now. So, did you follow his work at all?
Yes, I also worked with him. So back then.
Oh, did you? Oh, yes. Okay. Tell us about
that. I had a small studio at my parents' house back then, and I had a rapper, and he was good, and I sent the tape to Peter, and he likes it, and so we go to his studio and we make a demo tape of the rapper, and so on, and it's also been released. It's called "Unarmed and Dangerous." Is a song called.
Oh, okay. Was that before Jack to the Sound of the Underground then? That was Peter's biggest hit, wasn't it?
Yes. Jack to the Sound was the biggest hit, and then you had to move your feet.
Yeah.
Also good, but I think it was before.
Yeah, and then of course he did the Downtown mix. I think that might have been done for DMC originally, but it was released. Petula Clark, remember that one?
Yes. Downtown.
Yeah. A long time ago.
And he also did the New Shoes, eh?
Yeah. Well, they were both, brilliant, because I think Ben started off right in the early 80s, but Peter, certainly from my perception, he came along a little bit later in the 80s. But okay, actually that's another link really, in terms of, because Peter and Ben really became artists in their own right. So have you released anything in your own name as a sort of artist producer?
Yes, but it was not in the disco area. It was a jazz hip hop.
Really? Oh, tell us about that then.
Yes, I was working in the begin 90s, I think. I was working in Germany as a DJ, and it was and dancing there, and all the American people from the base there, they were every weekend there. So I met a few rappers there, and they come to my parents' house nearby Eindhoven. It's 1 hour drive. So, and we recorded a few songs, and it was a label, Beaujeu Records in Roermond, and they released it.
Good.
I got also one, but yeah, my name is not in it, but it's my song.
Okay. It's good to do something a bit different, because I know when I was interviewing Michael Gray, he worked with a sort of, I think it was a proper band, which is a bit out of what he normally does, but he said he really enjoyed it because, because I like lots of different types of music as well, and sometimes it's, if you stick too much within the same genre, and I think it's probably fair to say that you don't always do disco, and it's certainly the 80s, it developed from disco into dance music, and there was electro as well, wasn't there? Yep. I don't know if we're mixing electro. So, okay, a couple more questions there. So what are your plans for the future then, as soon as we're out of lockdown? Is it more remixing?
More
working
remixing, producing.
Yeah.
Because I got a few songs finished, but because of the lockdown, we cannot record it. So,
so these were, sorry.
There are, I think, 5 songs that still have to. I have 5 songs waiting for a voice.
Yeah. So really, you are moving into recording, like
I'm trying to,
yeah.
and hope I can do something good.
Yeah. Yeah. It's quite.
Yes.
You talk. Sorry.
I made a few releases now in the last 5 years, but it's all digital. It's not on CD or on a record or something like that. But I had a small 2 songs that did well in Austria and Switzerland. 2 songs did very well for me.
Good.
So, okay.
So moving into more being a producer, really. I think I mean, I don't do many remixes now, but it's more satisfying doing original productions. Well, maybe not more satisfying, because we're going to be doing remixes, I think, together, as well as doing original productions. That's another link there. So moving on then to
I'm not saying nothing.
Yeah, to putting some links at the end of this interview. So one of them will be to COVID-19. And you've chosen another song to go on the end of the interview. So the people watching will be able to link. And in case I forget, we'll also put your website details and any other contact information you want, like Twitter and whichever social media you want to promote. But which was the second song that you chose, and why did you choose it?
The second song I did is from Sydney Youngblood, If Only I Could.
Yeah, great song.
Great song. The remix I did, I had only the 12-inch, so no a cappella.
Oh, okay.
But if you hear the remix, then you say, hey, he has the a cappella. Then no, I don't have the a cappella. So yeah. I built around the 12-inch. I play the instruments and everything, and it became a remix of 10 minutes.
Oh, wow.
From 10 minutes. And that was the first remix that DMC released it.
Used.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
It's on YouTube. So we'll put a link
to
that at the end. Talking about lengthy remixes, because certainly in the 70s, late 70s, you used to have like 70-minute remixes and Donna Summer suite of 3 different songs, but I think DJs like to put them on and then go into the audience or go to the loo or something.
Yeah, something like that. I did it also.
Yeah. Yeah, the worst thing is I've seen DJs do that, and then suddenly the record just stops and nobody can find the DJ. I don't think I've ever done that, but that's the danger. Anyway, okay, I think that's great, actually. Thank you so much for your time. And obviously we'll be in contact soon in relation to our projects. But thank you very much for talking to us.
You're welcome.
Great. Thank you.
Bye.